welcome to the SVG-TV News for Tuesday, June 1st. I'm Khalil Kato with the details. With today being the start of the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season, residents are being urged to be prepared. This from Acting Prime Minister Montgomery Daniel, who at a news conference today said residents must also be vigilant with the threat of the La Soufrière volcano still looming and the rising positive cases of COVID-19.
Hurricane season, while catering to the needs of those who have been displaced from the explosive eruption of the La Soufrière volcano on the 9th of April 2021. With the last explosive eruption of the volcano on the 22nd of April 2021. Though the volcano has remained relatively quiet, we must indeed maintain our vigilance in the monitoring of the La Soufrière volcano, as well as preparing for the impact of a storm or a hurricane. Equally, we have also been seeing an increase in COVID-19 cases, which has implications for preparedness during this 2021 hurricane season.
Minister Daniel said the Colorado State University in April predicted an active hurricane season this year with 17 named storms and 8 hurricanes, 4 of which may become major hurricanes. He further noted that 13 to 20 storms and 6 to 10 hurricanes with 3 major hurricanes were later forecast by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association. With a year faced with many hazards from the COVID-19 pandemic and the current response and impact of La Soufrière, Minister Daniel said this makes preparations for this year's hurricane season extremely critical.
Many of our roofs may still be covered with ash. And while you check your roofs, please ensure the ash is removed, as when it rains, the ash, when mixes with water, becomes heavier and can cause our roofs to collapse. Secondly, persons living even closer to the volcano must remain vigilant, as the heavy ashfall on the hillsides may be mobilized during heavy rainfall and become lahars. Flooding is one of the more prevalent hazards that occurs during heavy rainfall, and we must take the necessary precaution during this hurricane season. Thirdly, we must establish a plan for possible disruptions in the water supply at our homes, because as a result, you can have disruption of our water supply to our homes, and therefore you may need to store adequate amount of water for your family to last for approximately 1 week.
The Acting Prime Minister further advised residents to pay close attention and listen to all alerts from the SVG Met services and follow all instructions from the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO.
That we listen to all alerts from the SVG Met services and follow the instructions given by NEMO. As we heighten our preparedness for an active hurricane season, let us all be ready. Make the necessary household preparations of water, food, checking of our homes, the roofs, the building in itself, and making your family emergency plan. Remember, planning for all hazards, including hurricanes and storms, begin with all of us. And our plans can determine how best we ride through the storm and how quickly we bounce forward and recover.
Meanwhile, the Acting Prime Minister said there are over 3,000 persons still in emergency shelters due to the explosive eruption of the volcano, which reduces the available space to accommodate persons in the event they may need to do so during this year's hurricane season. Minister Daniels said NEMO is, however, identifying alternative shelters.
While we hope that many persons who have been displaced may be available to return over the next few weeks or months, there are those who may not be able to for an extended period, and we have to continue to support these families. The National Emergency Organization, NEMO, has been identifying alternate shelters for use during this hurricane season. And while this remains a challenge, we will continue to assess the physical condition of all available shelters.
Minister Daniel further encouraged residents to plan ahead in the case that they would have to go to an emergency shelter and to take along supplies to last 3 days.
Persons in the emergency shelter must continue to wear a face mask at all times. This is to reduce the spread of the coronavirus and other viruses that may be present. Families will stay in confined areas within a shelter as you will have been placed.
With 54 cases of COVID-19 recorded in 14 emergency shelters over the past 6 weeks, the acting Prime Minister used the opportunity to urge persons in emergency shelters to continue to adhere to the COVID-19 protocols.
To also say that persons are also encouraged to plan ahead if you need to seek shelter, and to consider staying with families and friends if that situation is available. And that is so because it is always best if you can find a shelter with friends and families than using the shelters as last resort. Equally, persons entering shelters, emergency shelters, are reminded to take their own supplies to last for at least 3 days, which includes food, water, bedding, and sanitary supplies.
There are several measures in effect to help reduce the spread of the virus in shelters for the 2021 hurricane season. Meanwhile, at a virtual news conference today, Minister of Health, Wellness and the Environment, Sinclair Prince, said despite all the hard work and protocols in place to keep the nation safe from COVID-19, a significant number of Vincentians are operating as if it is business as usual, which he said is very disappointing and unfortunate.
Too many people are without face coverings in public, and we are witnessing too many crowded gatherings, both indoors and outdoors, without the requisite physical distancing. At the same time, there is a consistent and constant increase in the positivity rate and absolute numbers.
As of yesterday, 8 new COVID-19 cases were recorded with 199 active cases. Minister Prince said what is of concern is that 27% of the overall cases are children 18 years and younger, with one as young as 1 month.
We've been given the impression worldwide that older people are more at risk, yes, and young people don't have to worry too much, but we have to change that mindset. 2 weeks of school hubs, we had schools in the hubs, we have 3 confirmed PCR COVID-19 tests, 2 children and 1 teacher. We're still investigating whether there are others. We have suspicions that there are others in these hubs. 54 cases in shelters across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Increasing positivity rates and absolute numbers, as we have said before. Post-COVID-19 complications and deaths in St. Vincent and the Grenadines increasing. Again, that is a significant point. Decreasing compliance with mask use, alarming trend of mass gatherings, low vaccine uptake, and this is taking place while we're having all of these happening. And disinformation, reports of deaths due to vaccines in St. Vincent and the Grenadines are absolutely incorrect. No person, there's absolutely no evidence that anybody has died from vaccine here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
In terms of vaccination, Minister Prince said the vaccination campaign, which started on February 14th, continues at all active clinics and polyclinics, noting that to date, just over 16,000 persons have been fully vaccinated in SVG.
As we continue to work our way up to 70% immunity, I take this opportunity to encourage my fellow Vincentians to get vaccinated. This gives our bodies the internal protection to reduce transmission and significantly reduce severity, which could result in hospitalization or death. Just to give you those figures again, total administered vaccines administered 20,334. The first doses 13,902. Second doses 6,432. Persons vaccinated in total 16,157. Of course, we do not operate in a vacuum. We had the explosive eruptions of last volcano, and we have to work within this particular environment.
Addressing the serious concern of the increase in cases of COVID-19 among the younger population at today's news conference was Senior Registrar at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital and Pediatric Nephrologist Dr. Mishka Duncan Adams. Dr. Duncan Adams noted that the peak in cases was registered after the volcanic eruption.
So we're talking about a peak since April 2021. And some of this may have been attributed to shelters, from clustering, etc. But it has also been found that, a lot of persons are letting their guards down. There's a lot of loosening or relaxation of the mitigation measures that are in place. And so we're seeing higher numbers, especially in children.
The pediatric nephrologist said approximately 1% of children are at risk from dying from COVID-19, and that there is also the risk of developing serious complications.
It is something that has been reported worldwide that is known as multi-inflammatory syndrome in children, and there is a relation to being infected with COVID. Now this, which is known as MIS or MIS-C syndrome, it's actually very life-threatening, and it can actually affect children to the point where they can die, okay? It has been shown that a lot of these children are not necessarily infected with COVID at the time when they exhibit the syndrome. They would have had a past infection, a past recent infection that may even be asymptomatic. And then weeks later, they would start exhibiting fevers, shortness of breath. They may have kidney damage. They may have brain injury. They may have diarrhea, they may have vomiting, they may have rashes to the body, swelling, and may even have inflammation of the heart tissues. All of this can lead to death in children. Luckily, we have not seen any cases in St. Vincent, and there are a few cases reported worldwide, but it is something that is specific to the pediatric population, and it's something that is life-threatening, okay, and it is related to COVID.
Dr. Duncan Adams made mention of a 20-year-old who was admitted to hospital in critical condition after developing complications due to COVID-19.
She had a COVID-related encephalitis, so her brain was affected, and she came in with status epilepticus, where she was seizing continuously and had to be in ICU. Luckily, this individual survived, but is still on the road to recuperation. So this is something that was COVID related. So this is real, and it's something that happens, even though, thank goodness, she did not die. She was severely affected as a result. So it's something that happens, and it's something that we as health professionals should know, and persons should know that COVID is here, it is real, and it can be life-threatening.
Noting that the vaccines currently being administered here have not been authorized for persons below the age of 18, Dr. Adams said this is why it is of importance that the younger population adheres to the COVID-19 protocols. And opposition leader Dr. Godwin Friday, at a news conference hosted by his party today, took the time to urge Vincentians to be mindful that the COVID-19 numbers are still high, and with the possibility of the situation spiraling quickly out of control, everyone must take control of their health and adhere to protocols.
We can't assume that we're past the worst until we finally lick this thing, because it continues to be a threat to all of us. Of course, the worrying statistics are that the numbers here in St. Vincent continue to be too high, and so the situation is not under control, so we have to continue to do those things that we have been doing for over a year now to help to protect ourselves from the worst of this terrible pandemic.
Dr. Friday also reminded persons to get informed and get vaccinated, as it is the surest way back to normalcy.
I do believe that vaccination is the safest and the fastest way for us to get back to normalcy. And you know my position. I continue to encourage people to do so, get the information that they need to be able to be comfortable to make that decision for yourself. Nobody making it for you.
And in more health-related news, we hear that there has been a decline in the number of dengue fever cases in SVG. This was noted today by Health Minister Sinclair Prince at the virtual news conference hosted by the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment. Minister Prince said since the implementation of the $1.6 million dengue fever response plan in October 2020, the Ministry of Health, through its Vector Control Unit, has been able to achieve more than 50% reduction in the level of mosquito infestation found in and around premises in all localities in SVG. He also noted that for the year thus far, only 62 cases of dengue fever were recorded, and that the current indices have been the lowest recorded in SVG for the past 6 years. Minister Prince said the ministry continues to employ over 100 health vector control assistants and spraymen with the goal of eliminating mosquito breeding sites.
However, with the explosive eruption of La Soufrière volcano, most vector control activities were significantly reduced. Implementation of the dengue response plan has recommenced on a phased basis, where most of the work is done within the green and yellow zones. It must be noted that we are still in the dengue outbreak mode, and the support of all stakeholders is needed, especially as the rainy season commences and the persons are still displaced. Be assured that we shall continue to be vigilant in our monitoring and response as it pertains to dengue and other vector-borne diseases. We will not rest on our laurels.
As a diabetic for 21 years with 2 legs amputated, it has been quite the struggle for Alfred Campbell. Campbell, who lives in the area of the Mineral Spa in Bel Air, shared with our news team today his experience of living with diabetes and his struggles moving about in a wheelchair. Before his life changed completely, Campbell was the sole breadwinner for his family as a mason and a farmer. As he struggles to cope with the current situation, Campbell said it has been difficult financially for him and his family, as he solely depends on the government's public assistance support and whatever little his son can contribute as he is pursuing a university degree.
I get help from my family, well, presently my son, because he's the one who helping me out right now. Paying little bills and things, and I do get a poor relief from the government. Yeah, so that's really what I get. And I mean, if I have some close friends, and now and again you might hear man call me and he say, man, hey, look at a little thing, you know. Really, it's been hard thing because I'm usually a hard working man. I go on the contract, I do all kind of work, I make blocks for 25 years. I've been working, but since this thing happened to me, it's just like it download because it kept me down and all thing. I can't move. I feel so strange that I can't go and do my work as I usually do. It's really sorrowful and painful. And hiding in a state like this now is really hard for me because I custom to go out and, you know, go in the ground and do a little thing, and everything I have to call somebody to help me do, you know. So it's really hard. Yeah. Being a corner tears running on me because I have a son. He died with it too. He died and 6 months after my brother died, and all kind of things just come down one time. So it's when you really think about it and think back about the situation, it's really heartbreaking. Yeah.
Campbell said when he found out that he had diabetes, he was working on a farm in Canada. He said that he was not checking up on his body regularly until the diabetes caused him to develop an abscess on his feet, which quickly deteriorated, and he had to amputate his left foot in 2015. Because of the strain on the right foot, it developed sores and was later amputated as well. Campbell used the opportunity to encourage persons to do regular medical checkups and stressed the importance of taking care of your feet.
You know what it was, so, I was feeling thirsty and all thing, and I instead of drinking water, I be drinking sweet drinks like Coke and all them kind of things, right? So that contributed to it worse, and I didn't really know. So after I find out that I had the diabetes, where I had to start using water more often and things like that, and use more greens and all them so on. So it's very important to check your status and know how you is. Check your status and know how you is. You must always keep contact. I see people in the hospital, I see people come in the hospital and they don't say no, they got diabetes. And they have it. I say, well, they don't go to the clinic, you're supposed to go and check your pressure and your sugar and see what's going on and to know how to contribute to your life. You can't just sit down like that and you know your status. You have to go and know your status, man.
Campbell said one of his major problems is getting his medication, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic and the recent explosive eruption at La Soufrière, and is appealing for any assistance that can be given.
I didn't have a wheelchair, I didn't hold on here. I had this hold on here, but the area representative got a new one for me, right? But I mean, otherwise, I would like to reach out there, like a little help and thing with the usual stuff, like with food and them things, you know, and then little money to pay my bills. I mean, my house needs fixing up and all that kind of thing there, and I don't know what will happen. Yeah, medication, I would like some medication very much, because right now I have none at all, and it's something I have to have. It's a dependable thing on me now. I have to have the medication, especially insulin, and I have none at all. Yeah.
According to the World Health Organization, there are about 422 million people worldwide with diabetes, with the majority living in low and middle-income countries, and 1.6 million deaths are directly attributed to diabetes each year. A Thanksgiving service was held today at the Methodist Church in Kingstown to celebrate the 100th birthday of Victoria Moses. Family and friends who attended the celebration event presented Miss Moses with envelopes, cards, and gifts, including a fruit basket. There were also different hymns sang and the sermon delivered by the Reverend Adolph Davis. Reverend Davis thanked God for sparing the life of Miss Moses so that she could celebrate her 100th birthday.
Are still in utter disbelief that Sister Victoria Moses is in fact 100 years old. And as old people say, this is not no mama guy, but I don't know that I have seen, whether in picture or in real life, 100-year-old person looking like her. Maybe you have, but I haven't, and it is every time I look at her, it just says, no man, she can't be 100.
Speaking through a pre-recorded video, the Centenarian, who was born on June 1st, 1921, shed light on her family tree. She noted that growing up, her parents owned farms in Chateaubelair, which were their livelihood.
Eat for every food we eat, from breadfruit down, what he used to plant. Plant is provision, otherwise we eat all those spring. Then when he plant the provision, my mother, she will plant peas and all those things. And that is what we used to get our livelihood from. When those things come to perfection to sell, we get something, sell and get a little money and get food to eat. And when my father cow have calf, he milk the cow and sell some milk, we get all those, get a little dollar. Who could cook? My sister Naomi, Millicent, Emilia, and after I come to do the kitchen, I could, when my mother can't do it. After I come, could I manage it, I used to have to do the washing and ironing. That was my job.
Amidst the challenges that are faced in the world today, Miss Moses thanked God for sparing her life to achieve such a milestone. She also encouraged her family to take care of themselves, noting that if she lived this long, they can too.
Glad to reach to this age, and I thank the Lord to have me staring me to see someone here. In spite of what is happening, you see, He still carry me through these days. I reached to 100. And 10 children, my parents, and my mother and father, they went young too. So if it goes well, I will be the only one to reach 3 figures. I reach to this age and all they have to do take care of themselves and try and see if they can follow my footsteps to reach to this age. You see?
Following his suspension from the last sitting of Parliament for making the demand that Government Senator Ashel Morgan absent herself from the proceedings of the House until the investigation into a shooting incident in Diamond in which she and 2 other persons were allegedly involved, Opposition Leader Dr. Godwin Friday today called on the Commissioner of Police to give the public an update on the investigation.
I urge my fellow Vincentians, everyone, that we must not see this as purely a matter for or that concerns only the persons mentioned in connection with it. We, as people who live in this country, must all be concerned about it. This means that the allegations of the shooting and the beating of Mr. John and the failure thus far to have a vigorous and transparent investigation transcends the individuals mentioned in connection with the incident.
Dr. Friday is of the view that because of the conflict of interest, persons who are unable to carry out their duties should recuse themselves from the matter.
It may be the situation here that the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Commissioner of Police are too close to those mentioned in the allegations as possible assailants to pursue the matter in a way that would inspire confidence in the general public that they will be able to conduct a full, impartial investigation and prosecution, if it comes to that, in this case. When such circumstances arise, here or elsewhere, anywhere, it is necessary to install other persons who are not affected by these concerns to conduct the investigation and, where necessary, the prosecution of the matter.
Dr. Friday also urged Vincentians to show equal concern into the handling of the case, adding that the situation poses a serious challenge to and for St. SVG's criminal justice system.
It is necessary for the police and its head, the Commissioner of Police, since he has spoken publicly on this matter, to let the public know what is going on with the investigation of the matter. This cannot be treated as a hush-hush matter. What will people think? What will our citizens think here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? What will people in the region, people looking in at us, think?
Cornelius John of Diamond was allegedly shot and beaten at his home on April 13th. 2 weeks after the incident, news broke that the Deputy Speaker of the House and Senator Ashel Morgan, Assistant Director of Public Prosecutions Karim Nelson, and a third unknown individual were allegedly involved in the matter. To date, no arrests have been made, as the police say they are continuing their investigations. In April 2020, there was a reported shootout involving the police and Camden Park resident Gleason Lewis, who was killed in the incident, as well as Sergeant of Police Philbert James. Immediately after the incident, the parents of Lewis requested a coroner's inquest through their lawyer, K. Bacchus Batiste, as they did not believe the police report on the shooting incident. Today, Bacchus Batiste told reporters that at a press conference that 1 year after there is no coroner's inquest, the lawyer said that she has written to the police chief magistrate and prime minister, and while acknowledgement of receipt of the letter was received from the police and the chief magistrate, none has come from the prime minister.
The coroner responded on the 5th of August. She said, your correspondence refers documents with regard to the within named Gleason Lewis are not before this court. So I wrote the Prime Minister. Please enclosed, please find a copy of a letter by me to the Chief Magistrate and her response. This is to request that you direct all the necessary information, that all necessary information be sent to the Chief Magistrate so that the inquest can be heard very urgently.
Can you give us the date of that letter to the Prime Minister, please?
It was on the 3rd of September, 2020.
The parents, who were not at home at the time of the incident, requested a compensation of more than $8,000 for damaged items on their property. Glassley Lewis claimed that the police were reckless in their operation and believes the death of his son and that of police officer Philbert Chambers could have been avoided.
And if it wasn't for their reckless and irresponsible behavior, I think Sergeant Chambers and my son would have been living today. Okay, my son was sick, right? Was showing sign of being mentally unstable, and they just come and, you know, without okay, in the first case we went to them for help because we were scared and all that. And
so you as the parents went to the police seeking help?
Yeah, we went to the mental, to Dr. Miller first, right? And she advised us what to do. And then when we saw that, you know, he's really, you know, carrying on, I chop up the truck and all that sort of thing. So my wife got real scared, and that forced us to go to
The senior Lewis also noted that personal items were collected from their home and were never returned.
That they took and his knapsack with all his personal belongings. And when he asks why they taking them, he said they're taking them as evidence. And up to this point, nobody is saying anything about it.
Lewis says there are too many unanswered questions about what actually transpired on that fateful day.
There are a lot of answers we needed. We need answers to questions like who really killed Sergeant Chambers? What kind of bullet killed him? Who fired the bullet? And the evidence to show that my son used a gun that matches the bullet that killed Sergeant Chambers. Okay? There are some other things that they took away. They took away even my garden fork that he used to. That is what they took to mash out the dough. Mash the dough out in order to get Gleason out.
Police have arrested and charged Timmy Williams, a 38-year-old conductor of loaders, with the offense of murder. Police say in investigations carried out, it was revealed that the accused man caused the death of his brother, Divey Larry Williams, a 36-year-old laborer of the same address, by chopping him with a cutlass on his forehead and about his body during an incident in their home village on Thursday, May 26th. The accused is expected to appear before the Serious Offences Court for arraignment. In another matter, police have arrested and charged Raphael Davey, a 52-year-old mason of Adelphi, with grievous bodily harm. Police say the accused unlawfully and maliciously inflicted grievous bodily harm on a 35-year-old farmer also of Adelphi by striking him with an iron chain on the right side of his face at Adelphi on May 17th. The accused is expected to appear before the magistrate's court to answer to the charge.